So I was writing my predictions for the Invitational playoffs, and I realized it would be like a 30-minute video if I tried to explain everything normally, so I figured it would be better this time if I just did the entire video in one take, which is either going to be great or bad, but I still can explain in detail how BDS take it. For real this time. Yes, I'm not kidding. Let's begin. Upper bracket round 1. Team Empire versus Oxygen. I think goes to Empire. OXG had a good last day in groups, but Empire showed what they can do when they're not playing in the EUL with 60 ping. If you let Joystick breathe, he turns into a demon. Liquid versus MIBR was fun during the Copa Elite 6, but I just think Liquid look more put together than their Brazilian counterparts, but it still should be a super entertaining game. BDS versus NIP flew under the radar at last year's SI lower bracket, but this time BDS gets revenge. Only team they lost to in groups, remember, for BDS was Empire, and I don't think there's any chance that NIP slow them down here. And FaZe Clan versus TSM is a fun clash of styles. I'd be more worried about TSM's chances in this game if it wasn't for FaZe looking a little shaky during groups. Last time these two guys played was DreamHack Montreal in 2019, and both teams now look drastically different. I think TSM take it home here. We move from the upper bracket into the lower bracket, and remember, we're eliminating 4 teams per day for the first 2 days. 4 teams out on Wednesday, then 4 teams out on Thursday. Team 1 versus Space Station. I hate to say it, this is Canadian's final game at SI if he chooses to head back into retirement. Team 1 have shown a lot of bright spots, even if they kind of play slower than a lot of other Brazilian teams. And there's a lot of reliance on Rampy and Fultz for SSG to kind of push them over the finish line. It's just not working. Rest in peace forever, North America's chances of being repeat champions. G2 versus Parabellum. You might think this is a hot take. It's not even a hot take. Parabellum takes it. Like, I can't express how disappointed I was with G2's group stage overall. Parabellum played less games, but won just as many as G2, and they looked like they were having a blast while they were doing it, and G2's whole bench is just shocked. Shasta just looking like this the whole time. Like, no one on that bench looks like they're having fun in the slightest. The only reason I think G2 could win this game is that they just historically do better in best of 3s, but I think Parabellum can do this. I don't know, we'll see. Dark Zero versus Furia is the only Group A rematch because of the way that we had 5 teams from Group A qualify, and then 3 teams from Group B. So this game has already happened, and it was Dark Zero winning in their best of 1 in groups, which is the only Brazilian team that they managed to beat. Despite their inability to get their roles figured out with like multiple people like moving and shifting around to different positions on the team, I am confident that they are the better team in best of 3s, and Furia's map pool simply doesn't look as deep. Cloud9 versus Makers. I will be specifically rooting against my prediction on this one because I don't want APAC to die in the first round, but I can't deny what's been working for Makers so far. It's an underrated matchup. In my head, it was either going to go to all 3 maps with OT or Makers were going to steamroll, and I have a feeling that it's the latter. Upper bracket round 2, Empire versus Liquid already happened in groups, and that's where we started to see Empire come back to form. Liquid couldn't stop them then. It was the very first game of SI overall, and I don't think that this team is going to slow their momentum here. In best of 3 matches is where we're going to see that Empire reliance on joysticks fragging get put to the test, though. You take him out early, and we'll see how Empire respond. BDS and TSM, we call this the BDSM game, happened during the lower bracket last year. TSM won then, but BDS arguably had a tougher group in this year's SI, and LMs, Shiro, and BDS are all having a career event so far. TSM keep it close, but the French win in the end. Remember, they are trying to win the only invitational that will ever be held in their country. Think about that. Lower bracket round 2, Oxygen versus Team 1. I call this more of a gut pick, but I think the playstyles of both teams leans more in OXG's favor. Team 1 have a lot of the pieces put together, but I can't see them going any further than this point in the bracket. This only happens, by the way, if OXG if they show up like they did on day 3, as opposed to how they did on day 2. Day 2 was abysmal, but day 3 was an undefeated stretch. They didn't lose anything, and they also beat SSG. So that's super important. That kind of mentality and gun skill has to come back into play here. MIBR and Parabellum was closer than it had any right to be in the group stage, but MIBR just have more best of 3 experience, and I just don't think Parabellum can advance past this stage in the bracket. So MIBR is kind of a safe pick, but I don't care. Parabellum have done exceptionally well to get to this point, and them beating G2 is probably going to be a career highlight for them for a long time. So I think MIBR take this game. Dark Zero versus NIP, you might look at the score and think that that's a hot take, and to be perfectly honest, I don't care, because NIP are probably one of the worst attacking teams that I've seen in a considerable amount of time, especially internationally, and I think a team like Dark Zero should absolutely be able to exploit that kind of thing on their side. I am having Vietnam flashbacks to what the lower bracket looked like from SI last year, because I was in the stands watching Dark Zero get their teeth punched in by ninjas in pajamas while Chowderhead is just screaming next to me about LATAM supremacy. But even with that in mind, Dark Zero can win this game. Don't look at the scoreline. FaZe Clan versus Makers, I'm hoping goes this way specifically. I'm hoping FaZe Clan wins, because I just want Makers to get humbled and everyone in my YouTube comments and mentions on Twitter just gets off the bandwagon and hands them a nice glass of reality check. But I do think FaZe can beat them. It's just a matter of how their styles clash overall. Lower bracket round 3 is OXG versus MIBR. This one is a harder one to call, and it's way more of a toss-up, but ultimately I don't think either team beats TSM in the next game, so I don't think it matters very much. Dark Zero versus FaZe, I expect to go the same way as their group stage game did. FaZe getting off to big early leads, and Dark Zero taking too long to figure things out on their side. When you're shifting things around as much as DZ has been mid-tournament, I just don't know what you're doing, and it's going to cost you. So FaZe Clan get it done. Lower bracket round 4. So this is where TSM and Liquid both enter at this point. So TSM versus OXG was really, really fun during the NAL, and it should also be a lot of fun here. But if TSM avoids playing Chalet and doesn't Ying Rush smoke through a window without droning for frost mats on their last round of regulation, yes, that play is burned into my memory. I don't know why. If they don't do that, then they should be fine. Plus, TSM also did beat them in groups pretty handedly, and I still do believe they're North America's best hope. But this game does cut the region's chances of winning in half, so I will be in pain no matter which team wins this one. Liquid versus FaZe also slashes LATAM's chances of winning by 50%. So if I had to pick a representative between these two, I can't not pick Liquid. Both teams looked a little off in groups compared to how I thought they would do. But if one of them has to knock the other one out, gut feeling, I'm just going to take the horses in this, because like, you can also use like some previous history, like from the Copa Elite 6 when they were in best of threes, where FaZe Clan went out very, very early on. Liquid seem like they're more composed, more solid, whereas a team like FaZe so far through groups has shown a tendency to throw some things away or have some very unconventional strats that simply do not work if for some reason they're meeting adversity or they're down mentally for some reason. So I do take Liquid in this game. It turns the next lower bracket game, lower bracket round 5, TSM versus Liquid, into the last NA team and the last Brazilian team. It's going to be close. I'm probably going to have a heart attack watching it, but consider that TSM's only losses in the group were to Giants, who didn't even make playoffs, and Makers, who picked them apart clean, but neither one of those teams are here. Like, TSM showed against MIBR and NIP that they can match the Brazilian style of play very well, and Liquid are also about to remember that beating Dark Zero does not mean that they can beat Bolo and Geo, so I think TSM win. The upper bracket finals, we finally go to the top half of this screen. Empire against BDS. It's a rematch of the November Major Grand Finals, a rematch of their group stage game, which, by the way, was BDS's only loss in groups, and it was still 8-7. Everyone on Empire has been looking really good, and then there's Joystick, who's just on another plane of existence for this tournament. And then there's BDS, where everyone except for Shiro is putting up record numbers, and they seem like they're playing as a wonderful, cohesive package. If Shiro wakes up, BDS puts Empire into the dirt. The Russians aren't just the story of Joystick, I know, but I have every confidence that the French can take this match at the end of the day, provided Shiro finally gets into a groove, because he just hasn't so far through the group stage. It makes the lower bracket finals then, Empire and TSM. This is where my NA fanboy is coming to play. For sure, I completely admit that without any shame, but Empire feel like a team that's got a really damn good placement in groups when nobody was expecting them to, and now you can start to like strategize or look into what they're doing that gave them so much success. It's almost like this is a hot streak that probably shouldn't have a lot more gas left in the tank for Empire's sake. And TSM, provided that they aren't also getting tired of playing multiple best of threes over multiple days, and they can, have some time to figure out the way that Empire is going to play, provided that they're not tired in the lower bracket, I think they can knock Team Empire out for good. Some people will call it heresy. Some of my friends especially don't care. This is, yeah. So, Grand Finals. BDS and TSM, the rematch. In international tournament history, when you're using the double elimination bracket and the Grand Final one map advantage system, which again, this best of 5 does have, the team with that map advantage has always won. There have been 2 of these tournaments in Siege history thus far. Team Liquid defeating SSG back at OGA Pit Season 3, and SSG defeating Nip at the Invitational last year. So, just bear that in mind historically, that the team with the upper bracket advantage has always won. On paper, this matchup is really good. Aside from I do think it inherently still favors BDS to a certain extent. And then you have that one map advantage that TSM has to dig themselves out of. I think that's going to make things even tougher to get around, and in this case, it's an insurmountable hill to climb. I'm saying this next sentence unironically, just like I did when this meme first began, but I do not see a world in which this result does not happen. BDS takes it. Thank you very much. Please be sure to follow me on Twitter and on the Twitch channel for updates about the post show that we are running for the rest of the week with myself and Jesse Chick. And thank you very much for watching all of the stuff here. I am incredibly tired and also just trying to figure out how to work my sleep schedule back into a rhythm of getting up at 3 in the morning to watch every game and do the post show. Thank you for your patience and for bearing with me. Sorry if this video is kind of late. Ultimately, I don't care. I will see you tomorrow. Thank you very much. Peace.